Guys, I do it all the time. I forget. I press play on the intro and then I get so carried away vibing to the intro that I forget that we're actually live. First and foremost, big up to everyone. You lot know what it is. Saturday afternoon vibes. The day before a match day. It's actually going to be a jam-packed weekend of football. You got AFCON finals. You got the Arab Cup finals. The Asia Cup finals, sorry. Then what else we got? We got Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich. We got Real Madrid versus Girona. We obviously got Manchester United playing tomorrow, and we got Marcel in the building. Big up to my bro Marcel. How you doing?
I'm good. Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you. God is the greatest, and yeah, man, feeling good. Had a sleep, re-energized, and I'm back.
Big up to Marcel, big up to everyone in the chat. If you've just come through, be sure to hit the like button, be sure to subscribe. It's the road to 3K. It's my birthday week coming up, so let's try and get me to 3K ahead of my birthday week. Manchester United versus Villa tomorrow. Marcel, you are optimistic all the time when it comes to match days under Erik ten Hag. How are you feeling about just tomorrow's game in general, away from home, and of course Aston Villa?
You're right. I am optimistic, and that's just how I'm always going to be. I think we're going to win the game, or there's an avenue to win the game, and that's just based on the last few results. I mean, we've scored a lot of goals recently. Our main issue, I think, Mina, is last season away from home. We used to suffer massively in games. We weren't able to get over the line. I was always saying, the demand to play under Ten Hag's philosophy and what he wants us to do away from home against fans that or crowds that don't want us to express ourselves in the right way or try to hinder our performances by booing or whatever. Just the pressure. We're not really good at playing under that kind of pressure. I think Aston Villa are a massive kind of club in terms of historically, and a big team. And especially this season, even our GOAT manager, Saf, he said that, this is a team to watch. And lo and behold, it has been. I think it's going to be a difficult game on that premise, but we scored goals recently, and their last couple of fixtures against top teams, Newcastle, Chelsea, they've had 3-1 losses to them. And then I think their last 4 games from home haven't been brilliant games. I think there's positive signs in there. And if the players play and try and impose themselves, similar to what Chelsea did midweek, you mentioned that on, just the other show yesterday. So I think there's good things that we can take from this, and I believe we'll win the game.
You're very confident. I like that because it could be 3 wins on the bounce in the Premier League for United. I don't think we've actually had that all season in comparison to last year when we were casually winning games consecutively. I think my biggest concern with United, just in general, is our form away from home. But if we go off of just the last few games, you think about Newport away from home. You think about what other game did we play away? I think we played Wolves away. No, we didn't. We played Wolves at home. We're playing Luton away next week. I think if United really use this opportunity to cement some sort of form away from home, that will trickle down into how we perform at home as well as away. I think for me, like I've said this many times, even last week, the biggest miss will be Lisandro Martinez. But it'll be interesting to see how the manager kind of navigates that, because unfortunately for Erik ten Hag, I do feel like a lot of his style of play is dependent on the inclusion of Lisandro Martinez. And that just shows you how important just a ball-playing centre-back that's good on the ball, good in transition, good under pressure. It just shows you how much of a heap of difference that they can make. Because you got Andre Onana, who, let's be honest, he's a good goalkeeper, but he's great on his feet. So even in pressing moments when he's getting pressed in his backline, I do feel, honestly, I feel more comfortable when Onana is being pressed and the ball's at his feet than when he has to make a shot. I feel more comfortable with that. And of course, when you've got Lisandro Martinez in front, it allows you to be a lot more comfortable playing out from the back. Do you think that with Aston Villa's high line and, the fact that Lisandro Martinez wasn't available the last time we played Villa, and United did that over the ball, long balls, run in behind, hit the high line, try get in behind it and utilize that space. Do you think United are going to approach it in a similar method, or do you think that they're going to approach the game more like possession based, try to dominate?
That's a really good question, because for me, we've been in a process this season, and unfortunately we've been barrened with injuries this season. So I think sometimes he's done what I would say a panic football, similar maybe to the over top balls that you're talking about, but like I would say pragmatic football. It gave us points against Liverpool away from home. Again, something that we talked about last season about adversity away from home. We still kind of suffer from that this season. even though we've tried to implement a new style of football, which hasn't worked because of the injuries to a degree and other factors, poor form. But that pragmatic style of football against Liverpool, I think sometimes he has to import that performance against teams that currently right now within the process are superior to us. Cities, Arsenal. But Arsenal, we went toe-to-toe away from home, and I think Garnacho, that Garnacho moment, I
saw you post that video. Yeah, I saw you post the video the other day saying that we were robbed.
So I still think about those kind of moments. I really think we should have, we got robbed and we should have collected points away from home at that ground. But, against Liverpool, I really enjoyed the togetherness that he was able to cultivate from the team and get a point. I think that's what's going to help us push towards the top four. I think you're right in terms of consistency wins, in terms of wins. That's a paramount thing. And I'm glad that you brought that to my attention, because that's what's imperative to get that top four and maybe beyond. But away from home, where we suffer a lot, just try and be pragmatic is what I would say. But I don't think that's Ten Hag's nature. That's why he gets battered by teams 6 and 3 and 4, because he always wants his plan A is to go and attack the opposition and find avenues in which to win the game. So it's very, very rare that he goes pragmatic. I think the squad against Liverpool was so barren, and we were clearly they're going to be the lesser side in that fixture, and he didn't want to get embarrassed again, so he goes pragmatic. But sometimes he has to take a little bit out of the Ole book. Sometimes he has to take a little bit out of the Mourinho book and just say, yeah, let's do this counter-attacking thing properly. I would like to see a bit more of that performance. I think our manager is going to do the quite opposite. And like you said, attack the high line, but also maybe have some sort of turnover elements to it and force our team to try and impose our game on them as well.
Fun fact, Erik Ten Hag has not won away from home against the top 8 team yet. Yeah, and shout out to Ridwan for bringing this up. He says United have failed to win their last 15 Premier League away games against sides starting the day in the top 8. So we've drawn 4 and lost 11. I think most recently it was the draw against Liverpool. Last season, Spurs, I remember. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. Spurs last year. Are you worried about that? Because I do feel like I think it's something to be worried about, but I wonder in those games, if people know how many times in them 15 games under Erik Ten Hag, away from home, top 8 teams, have we had our strongest lineup?
I don't think that many, and also in those games as well, I think we're in a situation where Ralph has told us we need open heart surgery. Mourinho said it's football heritage that we're not ever, like, the fact that he's achieved second place is a massive achievement for him. I think we have to kind of understand that we're maybe a top 4 side ourselves. We're not going to be a Premier League lifting side, and we haven't been that for 10 years. We're not going to arrive in Champions League finals, and we haven't done that for 10 years. We're season in, season out, struggling for 4th position, like Arsenal was back in the day, unfortunately. And it's one of those situations where, it just shows the barren quality of the squad. Being able to play under the manager's demands, more progressive and possession kind of demands compared to previous managers that would have been happy to be pragmatic away from home. Ole, Mourinho, Ralph tried a little bit, but those kind of managers were happy to be pragmatic away from home. This manager wants to dominate in every single 90-minute match. So when you're forcing those demands upon players that maybe don't have that skill set yet, because we're in a rebuild phase and he has to sell players on and get the quality players in, you're going to go through this bit of turbulence. Am I worried? It's very early in the process, and if he continues to get top 4s with that kind of stat in place, it just clearly shows that we need caliber of player to execute against the top 8, and that's the next stage.
I think, I disagree with that part in terms. I think winning against the lower league, lower half sides is not the biggest part. I think winning against the people that you are level on away from home, I think that's what makes you stand out as a manager. I mean, I'm not saying that anyone can go away to Sheffield or away to Luton or away to Burnley. I'm not saying me as a manager, knowing nothing, I could go and win, but that's the bare minimum. You go away to the lower half sides and you have to win, in my opinion. When it comes to top 8, not winning away from home is a big worry, because that basically means that there's more than 4 teams that you go away to and you can't get a result. I mean, Drawing 4 out of 15, that's crazy. That's actually crazy. Drawing 4 out of 15, losing 11. That means that our identity away from home, because I think a similar stat is, I think we've beaten a lot of the away We've beaten a lot of the top 8 teams at home. Last season, we beat City at home. We beat Liverpool at home. We beat Arsenal at home. It was kind of like we can do the job at home. I think the challenge in football, just in general, is when you go away from home. And I think under Erik ten Hag, tomorrow needs to be a situation where we have to win. We have to win because of that we don't win away from home against the top 8 sides. And B, we need to get on a winning streak where we are lifting up points. I mean, people around us are dropping points. We need Villa to drop points. We need Spurs to drop points. We need a lot of teams to drop points. And the only way that we can do that is, we can rely on them coming up against other teams and teams taking points off them. But also doing the business when you come up against them. It's as simple as that. That's why I don't agree that I think it's a big worry not winning away from home against top 8. I think that's as probably, I would say, it might be blasphemous, but I'd say it's as big as an issue as people saying that the team doesn't have an identity when they play. I think it's as big of an issue.
So I think that comes into the argument of what do you want first, performance or results? I think Ten Hag in his first season spoke on results when really performance must be the foundational issue, because once you get your style of play and your foundations, then results against away from home or at home, you have a foundation and a process that you follow, whether it's away at home or away from home or at home. But I think I do understand what you're saying. I just think right now in the process, I think getting the results, making sure that home is still a fortress is very important. Charity always will start at home. So we need to make sure that we're investing and making sure that we're a solid team at home. And then, like you say, I really think it's the quality of footballer, playing under the pressure, under the demands of Ten Hag, this style of football where you want to be controlling the game, possession, creating chances in an environment where there's adversity and nobody wants you to succeed except for the 2-3 traveling thousand. Our players crumble under that pressure. That's a big issue, and Ten Hag has to whittle out the weak. But that's part of a process. I think, the board and the structure, that all takes time. And the Ed Woodwardness, the residual from that, it's hard to get rid of a 250k a week Maguire and all these other kind of bills that you consistently have to deal with. Even though my manager has wanted, I believe anyway, to get rid of these types of players before. So, it's a difficult predicament.
Few questions in the chat. I'm going to go through some of the questions. Big up to everyone. Be sure to hit the like button if you've just come through. If you want to join the membership club, you can. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get your badges, you get your emojis, you get your custom member content. We were playing Among Us for like 2 hours the other day on a member-only live stream. So be sure to check it out. Big up to Koala says, Martinez is the signature of Erik ten Hag ball. Without him, we do not have a way of playing. True or false? I think you know what the answer to that is.
I'm going to say false.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and even though I want to credit you for saying he's the player of season last season, early doors, and he's most probably still the most important player for this season, over his whole tenure. So he is, but and I do agree with Kola in terms of he is, it's definitely a signature of Erik ten Hag ball. But I think Luke Shaw can emulate to a degree what he produces,
don't say that.
In the left centre back position, I think he can. But I think what the super chat is kind of saying is, is he that important to it? Yes, but I think other footballers, and I think in Ten Hag's presser, he says that the advantage of playing at a left footed at the left centre back is just that they're left footed. So, he can train players to understand the passing angles. It's just Martinez is so wonderful at doing it.
I think Lisandro Martinez is an important part, and I think Lisandro Martinez on the ball, Luke Shaw, I think they have different qualities. I think they have different type of qualities when it comes to being on the ball. And I feel like Luke Shaw does it well, but not to an extent that Lisandro Martinez. I think there's stuff that Lisandro does that Luke Shaw can't, and I think there's things that Luke Shaw does that Lisandro Martinez doesn't really excel as well as Luke Shaw is. The idea of playing left-footed players at left centre back, I think Erik ten Hag has kind of shown that he doesn't actually 100% agree with that, because we've seen this season Johnny Evans playing right side, Varane playing left side, and here it was mentioned yesterday as well that Varane is the joint most two-footed player in the league. 52% of his passes with his right foot, 48 with his left foot. The thing is that, and I said this yesterday on Saeed's channel, Varane doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as Lisandro Martinez or Luke Shaw, so people just assume he's not good on the ball, but he is. He is good on the ball. I would say that Lisandro Martinez is an important part of the style of football building up from the back, because we've seen how much of a change there's been in the philosophy or the style of football that United play just from having Lisandro back. We've seen it, and I think last season we kind of saw, once he was out, the struggles that United had playing out from the back. And that's why I think you shouldn't rely on a player completely in order to play a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I want to know what you think the backline will be tomorrow. What do you think is our strongest backline?
Wow, that is it's a difficult question, because I was battling with myself, saying, okay, Luke Shaw has to be left centre back now, and then maybe do you bring Harry? You promote Harry Amas, from the academy, and just as a free hit, Harry. We are in a situation now. Enjoy football, but then you have a lot of people saying, Luke Shaw is doing Luke Shaw things with Rashford, in front of him. That's a very strong partnership. Keep it the same, and then for me, then you maybe just want somebody, if Ten Hag decides to impose himself on the game, then he's still going to maybe want us to push 10, 20 yards up when the ball's in their defensive third, or closer to their goal. So you're going to want recovery pace in behind with the kind of players that they have, and hungry players to attack the space. I think Maguire's not suitable for that kind of game. I think Lindelof is not suitable for that kind of game. I think Johnny Evans even is not suitable for that kind of game. So my defensive partnership would be Kambuala and Varane. And
Kambuala? You'd
Yep.
have Kambuala starting.
100%.
I've not been as impressed with him, I think, as you have, but I want to know why you'd say you'd have Kambuala over someone like Johnny Evans or Luke Shaw, etc.
A perfect student to his mentor right next to him, his French colleague mentor that has done it at the highest level. All he needs to do is be point guarded, where to go, when to go, and how to go there. That's all he needs to do. And at that young age, you should be able to soak up all the information, and this is from a Champions League winning footballer that's next to you. That's going to come. And that should also mean that Varane doesn't have to do much of the running. He just needs to point guard it, go over there, mark that space, protect that space, do that, and then listen to what your manager's told you in terms of the passing angles and where to be and when to be. So I think, and because he's got that recovery pace, you're a bit more secure in terms of, okay, if they're playing it through the thirds and breaking lines, you're able to catch up with them, basically. I think, is he a bit more ball secure than the other people that we're talking about? Lindelof, Evans and Maguire? Maybe not. Is he close to maybe their same level? Maybe. But I think, is he less mistake prone than Maguire? I think so as well. I think Maguire's got maybe more mistakes in him, and that's going to be a worry if you play him. If you play Maguire and Onana together, there's going to be mistakes happen. We're going to concede mistakes. So, yeah.
Justice for Maguire, man. He's got this negativity around him that is like, it's guaranteed if he plays. Unfortunately, I realize every time he's come on as a sub in games, like, to close out a game, we always end up conceding. I think it was the Sevilla game last season, the Wolves game a couple of weeks ago. Every time he comes on, it's very unfortunate, but United just concede. And I see conspiracy theories all the time about something to do with Harry Maguire. Let's quickly talk about the recent news over the last couple of days about the idea of Frenkie De Jong moving. I think he's been linked to a move at Chelsea. He's been linked to a move at Arsenal. His agent's working overtime, I think, to get him a move in the summer, and we know it. We know that Barcelona, guys, they're broke. They've just been fined by La Liga like 40 million. They've even said, I think they said that they're going to take them to court because Real Madrid don't get punished the way that Barcelona do. They're having financial issues. They need to sell people. They need to get people off the books, and also they need to recoup some transfer fees that they've paid. The idea of Frenkie De Jong at Manchester United, I think the idea sounds good, and I'll be honest, Frenkie De Jong is a phenomenal player. He's an amazing player, and no one can deny that. And I also think that Frenkie De Jong, yesterday someone was saying on Saïd's stream that he can't play the way that Ten Hag plays, but Frenkie De Jong was an integral part of that Ajax team under Erik Ten Hag. And I just think it's very unfortunate that he's been in a Barcelona team that kind of post-Messi situation where they kind of had to move away from relying on one player, and then they brought in a load of random. They brought in Rafinha, they got rid of Dembele, they brought in Lewandowski, they brought in Gundogan, and I think De Jong has just been an unfortunate person in that situation, because when I was watching him in the World Cup in Qatar, I think he was one of the Netherlands' better players.
Yeah.
Would you take him at Manchester United just under the Ten Hag style of football, or would you rather they go down a different kind of route when it comes to a midfielder?
I would personally take him. Yes, he's the prodigal son. If you know, he's the prodigal son. He went away. He was at Ajax with his father, in his footballing father. By the way, I think Ten Hag played in a similar position, centre back or DM. So this guy understood what Ten Hag wants or what requires in that DM position, and then he goes and overindulges to a degree. Goes to where he feels he needs to go, where it's nice, and he's not gone with his manager. His manager wanted to bring him where the work is, where the hard work is at Manchester United Football Club, where it's going to be difficult, where we need to prove and build legacy. He's gone to somewhere where it's nice, it's sunny, the wife loves it. I'm going to stay here. And it's not worked out. But, just like in the story of the prodigal son, the father brings him back. And that's what Ten Hag wants to do. So he's going to bring him back. And then he's going to be able to, he's going to have to get to work. And getting to work means maybe playing in the DM alongside Kobbie. Maybe Bruno's still there for a little while till, Mason Mount finds his form and gets into his prime. But it's a situation where I think if you can get it for the right price, I think that's where Omar Barada and Ineos as a whole come in and make sure that it's footballing sense. Because, we have to have that group of people, that conglomerate of people to say, listen, Ten Hag, no, you're not getting this player. You're not getting Anthony for 80 million. That's ridiculous. We're not going to purchase X player or whatever player that you want. And I know he wants Brobbey, and I think Brobbey could be a good signing, but you're not going to get Brobbey. It's from the Eredivisie. There's proven quality elsewhere. And I think he needs that element. But with this clear talent in Frenkie De Jong, I don't think you can really exercise that. I think he has to be somebody that we look to get if it's for the right price.
I think the idea of Frenkie De Jong on paper sounds great. I think it sounds like a great idea, but I think United are in a position where you lot might shoot me, yeah, but I don't see Bruno going anywhere anytime soon. I don't see Bruno leaving the club anytime soon. I think Bruno will be at United for at least the next 2 seasons after this, yeah. And I would like to see Bruno move to a bit of a deeper role and for United to buy a 10, if I'm being honest. And instead of spending, 80, 90, however much million it is, because let's be real, Barcelona are not going to sell him for a cheap price. They're not. They need the money in it. They need every penny they can get. I would rather get a 10 and then, I've said this time again, United need a box-to-box. United need a box-to-box. We need an engine. We need, not going to say a Kante, but we need an engine in the team that goes from box to box, that's physical, that is good in aerial duels, because let's be real, that's why McTominay plays sometimes, because he's got that height. He's not physical, but he's got the height. And I feel like, unfortunately, Ten Hag has multiple different players in the team right now that all have good different traits that he wants. But we need to find one player with all of that. We need to find someone that's similar to Casemiro in terms of a destroyer, someone that can get up the pitch, down the pitch, good in tackles, physical. Someone also who is similar to McTominay, that is tall, that can get in the air, can win aerial duels. Partner that person alongside someone like Kobbie Mainoo, alongside Bruno Fernandes, etc. I think that would be the better path to go down, instead of spending 100, 120, 90 million on Frenkie De Jong. I'm not going to say that Frenkie De Jong is a crap player, because we know that's not the case. But I just feel like United have moved away. 2 years ago, when United were chasing Frenkie De Jong, that was the right idea. But because we ended up going with Casemiro, we now have to replace Casemiro. Does that make sense? United went for a different type of midfielder, and now they need to replace that midfielder with the same traits. That's why
I agree with you totally as well, because and they've done that twice over, even with Eriksen. It was a very short-termism kind of deals there. They weren't looking for the long term. I think those two purchases were bad business from businessmen. They couldn't execute the deal that that the manager really wanted from his talent ID and Frenkie De Jong, and then they say, okay, well, we'll get your control element player and somebody last minute as well to shore up the defensive side of things. I think Onana, the Everton Onana, in terms of box to box, it definitely fits that mold. And we were saying, or I was saying, Jude Bellingham early doors, in terms of having all elements of midfield play, defensively and offensively. So I think that makes perfect sense. And even Bruno coming out of the 10 position at some stage, I really hope and that Mason Mount gets a full speedy recovery and is able to fulfill his role in the 10 space for me. But it depends what style of football we want to play, Mina, whether it's Frenkie De Jong or a box-to-box type footballer. If he's still obsessing over the 6-2-8 and believes it can work in the Premier League and he can get a combination of footballers to make it work, maybe even a Frenkie De Jong, Onana and Kobbie, Onana and Kobbie in the two half, the left attacking mid space and the right attacking mid space with Kevin De Bruyne, with Frenkie De Jong holding the 6 space, it could work. He has to figure these kind of things out. But I do agree with you. I think Bruno has to be moved out of the 10 at some stage, and as he gets a bit more mature and his temperament gets a bit better, he's able to just stay in the 8 and let somebody else do all the creative big decisions and the control in the 10.
I genuinely think that this idea of the 2-10s will not work unless United have, I think, a Rodri type of 6, like a Rodri, a Kante in his prime, that kind of midfielder. If United had it, and also I think the idea of 2-8s might work, guys. I'm very traditional, where I want United to go back to playing 4-4-2. I want 4-4-2 ball. I want to see 2 strikers. That's what I want to see. I want to see 4-4-2, and furthermore, I want to see 4-4-2 diamond. I want to see a 10 behind the 2 strikers, a sitting midfielder by himself, and 2 wingers. That's what I want to see, and 2 strikers. But I don't think. I think, unfortunately, modern football has kind of moved away from that idea of 4-4-2, and I just don't know why. But I think the idea of this 2-10s with that Erik ten Hag likes, I don't think it's going to work in the Prem unless you have someone who is physically solid in that lone 6 role. And we've seen Kobbie play there by himself and this season, and he tried his best, but he struggled, because unfortunately that's what's going to happen. And unless the 2-10s kind of get back and support, is there even such thing? I don't want to say box to box 10, because I don't even think that's a real thing, but you need 2-10s that kind of get back consistently. And this is where I think about the Mason Mount deal, because we spent 60 million on a player who has been out injured. He went out injured, came back, got injured again, has been out, not really much up. He's been in the gym, like, doing recovery work, rehabilitation work since December. Yeah. We're now in February, and there's still no actual update about how long he's gonna be out for. Yeah. We could have just not bought him and got him on a free in the summer. Like, we could have done that, but now we find ourselves in a situation where we've spent 60 million on a midfielder, and then we're probably going to go out and maybe get another midfielder this summer, depending. Because I think does Eriksen's contract end, or has he got one more year on his contract?
I think he might be going on a free to Galatasaray or something, or to Fenerbahce or something, but I'm not sure what his contract situation is.
So Eriksen, Casemiro's likely going to leave. I don't know where I see McTominay going. Unfortunately, it's one of them situations where I don't know if he's going to leave or not. But it's one of them ones where we've spent 60 million on a midfielder. The year before that, we spent 70 million on a midfielder. And now United are going to go out and have to buy maybe even 2 more midfielders this summer, depending on who leaves and who's available. So it's like, idiots have their work cut out. But if you could rebuild the team just this summer, say you got a budget of like 200 million, what positions do you think is the most important to replace or update? And is there any kind of players you would go for?
Wow, the last time we done this, Mina, I said goalkeeper, and then the goalkeeper changed and everyone hated me. But it's the jury's still out on the goalkeeper situation. I wouldn't count all my chicken, the chickens haven't hatched when it comes to the goalkeeper situation. I think that if you get the centre back now, now I'm asking for the centre back to come and support the goalkeeper, which is quite funny. But I would say Todibo, and I'm being quite specific as well. I'd say, because the Ineos, if they can make it a good value for money signing in Todibo, I think you need ball progressing centre backs. Martinez take so much pressure and mistakes off Onana just because we have the football. The best form of defense is attack, and that's having the football in your possession. It means Onana doesn't have the opportunity to make howlers and actually do like what we say is his strongest point, which is play the football. So I would say Todibo, Martinez looks strong, and maybe a replacement for Martinez at left centre back, a left-footed centre back. And then maybe another striker. Ivan Toney looks like a very, very good purchase, But again,
are you on the Ivan Toney hype? Because I don't see Ivan Toney coming to United. I like Ivan Toney, but I don't see him coming to United, unfortunately.
I don't know, Mina. I think Arsenal we will surpass Arsenal within the next 2 seasons, I think, in terms of our process. So, he doesn't pick up trophies at Arsenal Football Club, similar to Van Persie, wasted all that time at that club. So I think it's best for him to come here. I think he will push Højlund, because a lot of people are worried then, Ivan Toney's approaching his prime, or kind of in his footballing prime now, 28, 29, 30. And Højlund's still just 20. But I think sharing those minutes, Ten Hag likes to go gung-ho and play in every single competition to win it. I think if one's not scoring in 2 games, to put Ivan Toney in, and Ivan Toney has to prove something to us anyway. Højlund is proving something to us, so I think both of them would be happy to be on the bench.
Damn, I don't see Ivan Toney leaving to come to United. I see him leaving Brentford, but I don't see him coming to United to sit on the bench or to be fighting for that number 9 shirt. I think how at Arsenal, Chelsea, I think it's guaranteed starting, because I've said this time and time again. I think Arsenal are a striker and a midfielder away from being the real business. But whether they get that or not, it's kind of like a different conversation. Chelsea are just in the market to buy a striker after they brought in and Nico Jackson. They're now being linked to Osimhen and Ivan Toney. I think the reason why I don't see Ivan Toney coming to Manchester United is, number one, I think United have heavily invested in the idea of Rasmus Højlund not only being the striker, but being the kind of long-term striker. He's young, he's 20. So we could get to a point where he's in his prime, and that's really when he's hitting the ground running, scoring 20, 25 goals in the Prem, etc. Guys, this is just hypothetical, but I think
I agree with you. It will happen.
Yeah, I feel like that's the idea that United are kind of going with, that, which is why they signed him. They signed him for long term. They didn't sign him for the now. Whereas I think Ivan Toney defeats that idea of buying players for the future, because you buy Ivan Toney, you're going to get maybe 2-3 years out of him, and then you're going to be back on the market for a striker. And I don't see Ivan Toney coming to United where he's fighting a 21-year-old for the number 9 shirt. I just don't see it happening.
I agree. I understand that. I understand what you're saying, but I just think he's a perfect kind of, not journeyman striker, but he knows traditional number 9 play, and maybe having 2 young strikers means that they're competing directly. I think Ivan Toney can get like Højlund through this process where he's inconsistent and not the 20-30 goal season man, and Ivan Toney can carry that burden and consistently deliver us 20 goals in all comps for 2 seasons, while Højlund's still doing the 10-15 and is off form and that kind of thing. So and I do understand that sentiment of not planning for the future, but I think if you just have one striker that is clearly planned for the future and one that can kind of deliver for us consistently now, for 2 or 3 seasons, that at a good price as well, because I do think there will be English tax and maybe I think Man United tax, once Ineos come in, will be dead, but there might be still a situation where that comes into play.
With Umar Barada, I saw an interview that the Financial Times did just when he was still City CEO, and he said a thing that he has a philosophy or idea in football where players get 1 or 2 seasons, and if they don't perform, they're out the door. And we saw that a lot at City. There's so many players I've seen City sign that at some point I'm like, where the hell are they? And then I see them leaving after a year or 2 because they just couldn't get into the team. They weren't good enough, whatever. They didn't fit into Pep's ideology. What players do you see leaving in the next year or 2 that under that kind of idea that Umar Barada has, after 1 or 2 years, they got a dip? Because for so long, we've seen players at United, be here for 8, 9, 10 years and just not deserve to be here. Is there any players in particular this summer, maybe next summer, that you see United getting rid of?
So I really think that this manager is the best manager to cultivate the young talent that we've got in the academy. Oyedele, Fitzgerald, Shea Lacey, There'll be more coming to my mind now, that we can push through. At Harry Amas, that's about 4 footballers there in an 11-man squad that you at some stage would think that they can get to the caliber of being Champions League or at least title winning caliber footballer. Potential, of course, right now, and injuries and all these things could derail that. But Ten Hag's been able to produce a group of young footballers from Ajax, cultivated them and been able to put them into Champions League situations, semi-finals, and and done very good things and win titles. So I think he understands that process of getting these players in there. So unfortunately, in 2 years, you're looking at maybe Bruno potentially, or 3 seasons, maybe Bruno potentially. I think Maguire needs to leave immediately. So this summer. Scott McTominay surplus to requirements, for many of the good reasons that you said. We need a fully functional midfielder that can produce more than one element instead of just adding the goals in the box. So, Scott McTominay part of that list. I think, look at that. He said it there, Varane, of course, as well. But Varane, I think, has a use case in terms of being able to educate Kambwala, like I said, and maybe a couple of the younger centre-backs. Casemiro looks like he's lost the full desire for the club. So him as well. Unfortunately,
I don't see Maguire leaving. I know this might sound controversial, but I don't see Maguire leaving in the summer unless United get a good deal for him. I think after this summer, he's going into his last year. It's his last year of his contract. He's got an option for 1 year. If he has a good Euros, some teams might look at it and be like, you know what? We should just wait 1 more season and we could get him on a free next year. Or United might use the option to trigger his 1 year and then try to sell him again. And it's going to be one or the other. I don't see United giving him a contract extension unless, guys, and this is a big if, unless the likes of Johnny Evans, Lindelof, and Varane leave in the summer. I think Lindelof got his 1 year extended. Johnny Evans only signed a 1 year contract. Varane could leave, I think, on a free at the end of this summer because he hasn't had his 1 year. He didn't have a 1 year option apparently on his contract, which United actually lied about it when they announced him. They said that they announced him for 4 years plus 1, but it was actually just 4 years. There was no plus 1 on it. So for that reason, I don't see Maguire leaving. And also, guys, bear in mind that a big part of the Premier League squads is homegrown players. You have to have a certain number of homegrown talents in your team. Obviously, it helps that we've got Kobbie Mainoo coming through, players coming through the academy. I don't know if Garnacho counts as a homegrown player. I'm not too sure because obviously we brought him from a Spanish academy. Yeah, so I'm not sure if he counts. But that's why I think Johnny Evans was actually kept on a permanent this year because we lost quite a few players over the last year or two that were homegrown players. We lost Lingard, etc. So it'll be very interesting to see whether Maguire goes, because I think there's multiple reasons outside of footballing reasons that United might want to keep Harry Maguire. But it's one of them situations where he might look at it and be like, okay, well, the next competition after this summer is the Euros, obviously, and then in 2 years' time, it's the World Cup. It could be his last World Cup for England. It could be because he's getting old. So it could be. So he might want a bit more playing time. And there's no guarantee that he's going to be getting a lot of playing time. I think this season he only got all this playing time because of injuries. But if United go out and buy a Todibo and then they sell Varane and Johnny Evans has left, do you really see United buying 2 centre-backs when they've got Maguire and Lindelof at home?
I mean, that's a really good point. And I think it's about priorities, like what you've been mentioning in terms of what do you want to add to the team. And through priorities, sometimes, a player like Maguire, unfortunately, isn't a big priority. So he gets kept on that premise alone. So I do agree with you in that sense. But we saw last season how annoying it was having 80 million, starting every single week, or starting him every single week. And it's just been below average performances to the point where my manager has to keep him out of the team just to salvage points, essentially, because he can't play on the halfway line. Even in England last season, or for England, it was the similar kind of thing. What I can credit Maguire for is being an excellent pro in comparison to his colleague in Sancho, where, you're barren or taken away from the squad for whatever reason, but you get your head down, you don't say anything, you respect the discipline, the decorum, everything to do with the manager. And then you find yourself in a situation where you're called upon again and you perform well, similar to Varane. These are excellent pros. So I can give them that credit. But in terms of lifting Champions Leagues and lifting Premier Leagues, especially when we're talking about Maguire, just not going to happen, especially not this club. So the likes of Brantford or whatever at Everton, and potential young English talent at centre back, Colwill maybe for Chelsea. These are maybe the footballers that you're gonna want to call upon once you sell Maguire for the cut price, unfortunately, because again, once the Ed Woodwardness, once you see it for what it was, the Ed Woodwardness, and you're purchasing players for 80 million cash, being able to allow Leicester City to build a whole new training stadium, at one go. It's just poor business decisions from business people, thinking about marketing instead of the footballing essence of the club. And Maguire embodies that in many ways.
I hear it. Big up to everyone in the chat. Be sure to hit the like button if you've just come through. Just be sure to subscribe. You can join the membership club. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get badges. You get custom emojis. There's some good ones. You get member-only content. And, of course, you support the growth of the channel. You can send in super chats if you like. If you have any questions, to have it read out, any comments. And, of course, that supports the growth of the channel. So I can keep bringing you this sort of content. We were speaking yesterday on Saeed's channel. And Dalot was mentioned as... And actually, it's not the first time I've heard it, but a lot of people have been saying that Dalot is their player of the season so far. Do you have a similar? I don't think so. But if you're new here, then that I don't rate Dalot like that. Yeah. I don't really rate him like that. But who's your player of the season? And the reason why let me tell you something. I don't have a player of the season because it's been a shit season. So anybody that is the player of this season, it just means you're the better one out of a group of shit people that have been shit all season. So it's very difficult for me to have a player of the season.
No, I understand. And that's the kind of standards that we want to have once we get to a certain level within the process. I think we should still be allowed, or you should still be allowed, Mina, to have someone that you think, has offered enough service for us to even get to this point. I think every single club in the Premier League will have something like that as a fan of the club, but the standards that we should be holding to, you're very right. There's been no great players, but Dalot, I think, he embodies what a Ten Hag player is. Ten Hag talks about fullbacks always joining in. He talks about being able to serve the forward line, and those two elements, I think Dalot's been really good. He's really good in the build up, the first and second phase, or the first and second third of the football pitch, and he's even been able to add goals this season in the final third. Is he world class, and is he the better defensive fullback out of the two options? No way. Does he still have to watch the blindside runs over his shoulder when the football's on the other side of the pitch or on Luke Shaw's side of the pitch? Yes, I think it's a massive issue that he has, and so does Wan-Bissaka. But in terms of players that have really contributed, to good performances and consistently, I think he's in that bracket. But I did hear you say that on Saeed's channel, so you'd have to educate me on. Well, I kind of know now as to why you think that, and you have to have those standards. I think that's what gets us to lifting Champions Leagues and lifting Premier League titles and winning trebles under Eric Ten Hag, because I think that's his trajectory. But it's like Dalot will become the second striker, the second right back to a Hakimi or to a world class, out of this world right back that we need, that the top teams usually have.
I hear it. I think, yeah, I have what's the word? It's like would I say I'm flippy floppy about Dalot? Not so much, because I used to rate him last year. I thought he was really good. I think this year is just one of them situations where he's the best of a bad bunch, like Ed said in the chat. I think when it comes to fullbacks, I feel like United need to replace Luke Shaw before they look to replace anyone on the right hand side. That's my stance on it. When it comes to any future signings, I think Diogo Dalot getting a contract extension last year, he's got a contract till 2029. He's not on big wages, but there's a reason why a lot of managers, when he went out on his loan spell, Jose Mourinho, Cristiano Ronaldo even spoke about Diogo Dalot. Ralph Rangnick spoke about him. They always had good stuff to talk about when they talked about his work ethic and how much he works hard. And he really tries. And I think this season we've actually seen some different elements of his game where he's been playing inverted. Sometimes it was Luke Shaw that used to play inverted last year. We've seen Dalot being inverted when there was times where we didn't have a ball progressing centre back like Lisandro Martinez when he was out. We saw Dalot doing that, progressing the ball, getting forward, especially the way that he plays with Garnacho on that right hand side in particular. I prefer that than him and Anthony, personally.
Yeah.
Defensively, I still think he has a bit of flaws. I think he's not as good as a 1v1 defender as Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but I do think his positional awareness when it comes to set pieces is as bad as Wan-Bissaka's. I think both of them, they struggle in their positional awareness. And I think that's why United are so bad when it comes to set pieces. You know, we can see, I don't know if you realize, but we concede a lot of goals from set pieces, crosses, corners. But also, I think the biggest part of our issue this season when it came to defensive flaws is conceding cutback passes. Players hitting the right-hand side, hitting the left-hand side, cutting a ball across. Yeah. And I think that's an issue for our entire backline, not just, you know, I'm not going to pick out just Dalot, but you know, it's a problem across our backline. Is it a position I would like United to upgrade in the coming years? Maybe, yeah, in the coming years. But as of right now, I think United can get away with having a Dalot and a Wan-Bissaka. I think Wan-Bissaka will be moved on first than Dalot.
Can I just say something on Luke Shaw? Is Luke Shaw your first position that you'd like to change in the back line? Because I think Luke Shaw can be converted into a left centre-back, backup to Martinez. Even if you just keep him just ticking on, you know, becomes a senior pro, you know, somebody that's been around the club a long time, but it's just a backup left centre back. You know, his legs are getting on, and then you get Harry Mass in, you get world-class left fullbacks in that can do the work alongside maybe Rashi, or Rashi unfortunately has to go because maybe he doesn't have the control elements or the right kind of elements and just the desire for the club. But I think he still can push on. But I think Luke Shaw maybe still has a little bit of a use case there in the left centre back role for me.
I don't know, because I feel like one of United's flaws, I'll say, is height in the back line. I think we've got Varane who's tall, we've got Evans, we've got you know, we've got Maguire, etc. I think when it comes to Luke Shaw, I might be some of the few people that actually prefer Luke Shaw as a left back. I feel like he's actually regressed as well defensively in that left hand side. But I still think going forward, and just his comfortability on the ball, and you know, he's got one of the best touches in the team. I think he's got one of the best, techs in the team. I think he offers a lot more going forward from left back position in comparison to left centre back. Now, when I think of centre backs, guys, again, this might be my old schoolness when it comes to football. When I think of centre backs, I think of tall centre backs. I think of physical centre backs. I think about, you know, players that have good recovery pace, that are quick. You know, normally if one centre back is slow, the other centre back is quick. I don't think of a centre back that's techie, that's got a good touch. Like, maybe that's how football has definitely evolved over the last 10 years. I think it was I can't remember if it was Arsene Wenger or Jose Mourinho that said that now that footballers don't have to be talented, they just need to learn how to work hard, and then they and take instructions, and they can pretty much play in any team, because football has kind of moved away from the idea of having technically good players, and rather you need players that are just good at taking instructions and work hard. And that's why players always get praised. I don't know if you realize, players always get praised for working hard. Players don't really get praised for being a technically good player. They get praised for working hard. So my idea of a left centre back, or someone who can be a replacement or an alternative for Lisandro Martinez, is a traditional left-sided centre back. That's why the more I watch Branthwaite, I like him. I like Lukeba. That's at RB Leipzig. He's good. We could have got him from Lyon before he went to RB Leipzig. But I like players that are tall. I like players that are physical. I like players that are just the centre back. Like, I don't want you to be a guy that's playing on the halfway line and playing balls on the top and all of that kind of stuff. But maybe that's just like my old schoolness when it comes to football. Luke Shaw would be the player that I would look to move on in the coming years in terms of that left-hand side, just because I feel like defensively he's starting to regress. And once he starts to regress defensively, I don't want to be in a position where, you know, you look at when people talk about Trent, they say, oh, he's a good player going forward, but defensively he's not that good. Because fullback defenders should defend. That's your job. I don't care about what you do defensively, if that makes sense.
No, I understand it. It's that I think it's not even old schoolness. I think our culture and our DNA from our football club has been that, you know, players do their role first. I think Ten Hag is kind of, and maybe I'm getting it wrong, but his culture is total football. You know, it's almost opposite. So defense is the best form of defense is to attack. The best form of attacking the football is to defend it in certain areas of the pitch. So I think total football means that you should be able to have attacking and defensive elements in any area of the pitch as a player. You should be able to and with Luke Shaw, it's going to be like a Daily Blind-esque kind of a player there that's able to retain the football, play the passes, and that's how we're going to be able to defend against the opposition's attack, by having the football. And I think, because, like you said, I agree with you, his defensive elements are getting a bit weaker now. So keeping him as the last line of defense for us in centre back, instead of asking him to go and break lines or carry the ball in wide areas, I think gives him a bit more time to see the game. He's got a little bit of pace. He's a little bit lethargic in defending, I would say, as well. But as a backup, I would definitely have him in there as a choice as a backup centre back.
Do you think United will sell Marcus Rashford? Let's quickly just talk about that, because obviously it's no secret, I think, Mbappe is leaving PSG this year unless they lock him in a room with Macron and Nasser Al Khalifi, and they basically force him to sign that contract. He's leaving. He's leaving France. He's leaving PSG. He's going to Real Madrid inevitably. I think even the La Liga president said that it's like 65% likely that Mbappe is going to come to Real. Like, that's the whole league president is saying it's likely he's going to come. And we remember last time, that summer, that saga was jokes in it. As an outsider, it was funny to watch. 1 minute he's leaving, 1 minute he's staying. The Emir of Qatar got involved and called the president of France, and apparently said that we're going to withdraw all investment from France. But inevitably, Mbappe is going to leave.
Yeah.
Do you think United should try and cash in on selling him, or do you think Rashford is like an important part of what Ten Hag is building?
I have an interesting take on this first, and then I'll so I think Ten Hag walks into the door at the football club, and before he gets to make a decision on what direction of football he wants to impose on the club, he has two transitional based footballers that he's demanded to make work within whatever he's going to do. So he has to adapt his style, but he tries to keep the style the same for the first season. The second season, he's not forced, but you're signing for this football club, Mr. Hag, because knowing that Rashford and Bruno are going to sign these new contracts based on previous work that you don't have any say upon. So with that element, he had to try and fit them into some sort of process, understanding, philosophy of football to a degree anyway. And then we have a world-class Rashford for this first season in a purple patch. We've never seen a consistent.
You think Rashford's world-class?
In a purple patch. So yeah, if you add those two bits together, I wouldn't say out and out world-class, but in the purple patch mode, he's definitely there and thereabouts, or looking like an Mbappe-esque in that purple patch mode.
That's a high statement, bro. That's a big statement.
I'm gonna overdo it. And be too optimistic, but I'll keep it as it is. And then like his biggest target right now, Ten Hag, is he has to sell him or turn him into 40-goal season Rashford. We saw him say that with an interview with Gary Neville, that's what he believes he can do in terms of Rashford himself, out of his own mouth, 30 to 35, 40 goals a season. I believe he can do it. My manager has to cultivate that level out of him throughout the season. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said it's the responsibility on the players, the footballers themselves, to get that level out of them, and not just the manager. And I think even Ten Hag has talked about that responsibility of the player. So if Rashford wants to get to the next level, produce throughout the whole season, 30 to 40 goals. If he can't do that within the next season or two under this manager, who I think has cultivated the best version of him in a purple patch, if he doesn't achieve that, then sell him. And I'm sitting on the fence with that. My personal preference, I think, would be to keep him because of what he embodies for the club. Forget about Ten Hag. I'm a Ten Hag ultra, but if Ten Hag goes, I will cry and I'll be upset. But De Zerbi, we'll call upon a De Zerbi, or it's the club is more important than anything, basically. But I'm a Ten Hag ultra in the same breath. So,
Marcel is a true member of the Ten Hag Defense League. Like,
yes.
You're a true member of the Ten. Like, I think you are front row in that army. One thing I will say is I disagree with the idea of Rashford being world class in purple patches. I think you cannot be a world class player if you only are world class when you are in a purple patch. I think you are world class regularly, consistently, kind of thing, and it's kind of one of them situations where I think about 1 or 2 years from now, it could be late to cash in on Rashford. And I agree with you in terms of what he embodies. Like I say this all the time. Like I'm fond of Rashford. I'm fond of what he like. He's I won't say he's paved the way, but you think back since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement, think of the players that have come through into the academy consistently into the first team.
Not many.
Rashford is probably one of the few. He's one of the few. Before that, it was Danny Welbeck, etc. After Rashford, there's been a few that's come in. Since Eric Ten Hag has come in, we've had Garnacho, we've had Kobbie. And I really think I know people won't like this, but from like a marketing perspective for Manchester United, they probably want academy players to look at someone like Marcus Rashford and be like, you know what, I can get to the first team of Manchester United because Rashford did it. I always wonder if Marcel didn't get injured that game, what would have happened if he didn't get injured and Van Gaal did not bring in Rashford, that wearing number 39 on his shirt? Would we have ever seen Marcus Rashford get an opportunity at Manchester United? I don't know, but the idea that he can be world class in purple patches, I think that's kind of like contradictory. It's like me. I eat halal food, guys. Yeah, so it's like saying, Mina, I got pork for you. That don't make sense. I eat halal food.
Yeah.
I don't eat pork. So it's like saying you. I don't think you can say purple patch and world class in the same thing, if that makes sense.
No, I respect it. It's the stand. It's the level that you're holding the club to, and where we should be at. It's where we should be at right now. But it's like I still believe in this man. I still believe he's good enough. I still believe he can achieve these. So I want to give him the benefit of doubt as much as possible. I think we oversell that to a degree. And when you look at the standards and where we should be, you're right. It's looking like in a season or two, he has to be cashed in. But if he starts delivering 30 across a season, which I think he's capable of, especially under what this manager's shown us, we keep him on. But, again, defensively, number 39, Rashford, his defensive work was crazy. I think his PR to a degree is much bigger than who he is as a footballer, though, which is also another issue, but maybe plays in his favour for Manchester United. But his PR level is 10-10 compared to what we're kind of seeing from him a lot of the time now. There's moments where we see him and he just looks like he doesn't want to play for us. He doesn't, or himself, So he needs to fix all of that. Mature a lot more. For me, I don't want to sound like I'm completely against Sancho, because I said he was the English Neymar at one stage, and I still think his potential is that. But
Bro, you kill me.
Rashford has to be away from these kind of players.
You actually kill me. You said Sancho is the English Neymar.
Yeah, I believe he was that good.
And do you still
I genuinely do.
Or have you moved away from that?
I've moved away from that narrative now because the mentality is not even there. I think his mentality is not even there. So. And I don't want people with that poor mentality around Rashford, because I think when he gets his head down, he's mature. The PR and all that speaks for itself of how he carries himself. So he just needs to be consistent with, and focused on ball.
I think for Rashford, I think the best thing would have been is obviously coming off a good season last year. I would have got behind your argument about him being world class if he continued that season into this season. But it's one of them ones where it's like you have a good season last year, and then when the team is doing bad, you're doing bad. So it's one of them situations. Does he only perform when the team's doing good collectively? Obviously, like you said, off the pitch things will always influence players, and that's why one thing I always say, and some people don't like it, I always say, like, footballers are people at first. Like, before they're footballers, they are people. I've had days, like last week, guys, if you were on United View, full view, I was moody as shit because I had a shit day. But people have that. You have a day, you have a situation where, you've had a crap day, you've had a crap week, there's things happening in your life, and you have to turn up and still try to portray something that you physically can't. And someone actually messaged me after that and was like, yo, are you okay? Like, what the hell? You're a bit snappy on the full view. And footballers are the same. They have situations where, there's things that will impact them off the pitch. I'm sure you have it. I'm sure everyone in the chat has it, where you go to work and, there's things happening outside of your job that influence your emotions and how you maybe perform at work that day. I feel like that is one thing we have to look at. But also, I feel like the idea of Rashford being world-class, like I said, purple patches, that's contradictory. Number two, I think if he had done it consecutively, back-to-back seasons, that argument could be had. When people compare him to Mbappe, I genuinely used to think that people just did it like as a wind-up, like as a troll kind of thing. I didn't know there's actual people that compare him to Mbappe because, isn't he older than Mbappe?
I think so. Yeah, I think
He's
so.
older than Mbappe.
I know that Mbappe's GOAT level, so already. So it's like, I'm just saying, when I see elements of it in him, When Rashi's taking off at full pace and beating players and like they're nothing, they're not even there, you say, okay, yeah, this is Mbappe-esque, But again, he's one of those players in that list where, unfortunately, if you're not delivering to a certain degree, you have to be sold, unfortunately. And that frees up the budget, I think, massively. And in terms of what we can utilize going forward in that position.
Quickly, just on the topic of another academy player, Kobbie Mainoo getting a bumped up contract.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that idea of him getting a new contract? I can't believe you said GOAT level, by the way, but we're gonna move away from that. Guys. What's your idea of Kobbie getting this new contract?
Good news for the club. I think maybe too early or too soon. At the end of the season would have been nice, and I think but this guy stands on business. He's a footballer.
How you coming with the TikTok quote? Stand on business, guys. I just found out what that meant like last week when my little cousin told me what it meant. I didn't know what it meant.
So I don't even know what it means. Still, I just saw a post. He just put it on his thing. He just put it on his thing on look on his Instagram.
You're using terms that you don't even know what it means.
Yeah, but he used it on his Twitter the other day. It looks cool, isn't it? It looked cool, man.
Don't ever change. Standing on business means like you're doing the thing in it. You're doing your thing, basically.
Yeah,
that's what it means. When you're standing on business, it's like you're standing on top of business and you're conquering it, basically. Yeah. I just found out last week in it. Well, what it meant.
I didn't even know until now.
Marcel used it and then said, I don't even know what it means.
Yeah, it's what it is, man. But yeah, he's cold, man. He's cold. This guy is cold, Mina. I think this guy is cold. So he deserves a new contract, and he's Manchester United through and through. Like you said, yeah, Rashi embodies that, and we've got other players now like Kobbie. I think there'll be a couple more to come through like this as well. By the way, the academy, we're that kind of football club since Matt Busby. We're able to go into the academy and reinvent ourselves. That's clear. That is very clear.
I think this is the most excited I am for the academy players that are coming through. I think.
Yeah.
I was excited. Kobbie Mainoo. If anybody go back, read my tweets from last year before Eric Ten Hag came in. I was so excited about Kobbie Mainoo. I remember seeing him in the cup final. There's a few more other players I'm looking forward to seeing. I might butcher his name, so I'm just going to refer to him by his first name, which is Amir. I think it's like Ibrahimovic, something like that. He's them MMA people. He's them MMA people. If you, I don't.
He looks like Habib. He looks like a Khabib.
Yeah, his name is Ibrahimovic.
Yeah. This guy's serious,
Ibrahimov. Sorry, guys, I butchered that. But he's from that area
in the mountains
in Russia.
In the mountains
that produces some of the best MMA fighters like Khabib. Two of his brothers are MMA fighters. One of his brothers a footballer. So there's quite a few. And he's I saw the other day that he played in an under-18s game. Then a few hours later, he played in the under-23s. Imagine that. And obviously, Harry Amas is now training with the first team. So it's quite exciting, I think, this academy that's coming through. Especially as we've seen under Ten Hag that every year he's kind of bringing someone in. He's bringing someone from the academy in, which makes me look forward to it. Dagestan, yes, they're from Dagestan, which is producing a lot of like MMA fighters, and now they look like they're going to start taking over football soon. I'm excited for Kobbie. I'm very excited for him. And people always say, don't hype him up, don't hype him up, don't hype him up. Listen, guys, I've seen people wanting Kobbie Mainoo to fail. I've seen people that they want him to do bad. So please stick by him, support him. Hype him up if you have to, yeah. If he goes on to flop 10 years from now, cool. But enjoy this era of having a player from our academy that we are excited about, and we want them to be an integral part of the team. Because, like I said, it will go on to allow other players to come through our academy, where we might be in a position where we have not just players coming through our academy into our first team, but we can be like other teams where we can sell players from our academy for 20, 25, 30 million. You can make money financially. Kobbie, I remember, shout out to Lil Yo-Yo if he's still in the chat. Lil Yo-Yo said this in the summer. He said Kobbie Mainoo is going to be better than Moise Caicedo. That's what he said. He said that one day on a stream in the summer. And shout out to another guy in the chat called DJ, who for the last year has been saying to me, Kobbie Mainoo is going to be the best midfielder at Manchester United. I think he deserves the contract. I think he deserves it. It's a reward. It's an incentive for him to keep playing well, but also kind of, I think, solidifies his position in terms of being part of the senior team. And also, it's kind of an incentive for other players to come through. Quickly, before we wrap it up, tomorrow, Villa, we spoke about it at the beginning of the game. What's your predictions for that?
We will concede if Maguire and Onana are in the team. So we will concede a goal. But I think it's going to be a basketball match if we try to attack. If we play pragmatic, we'll definitely win if we play pragmatic. And a lot of the games in our half. A 3-1 win or a 3-2 win again. I think if we just replay it back at home, I think it was 3-2. So 3-2 I'd like to see. Rashi, Højlund and Garnacho right now are dangerous, and that demanding of and standing on business that Højlund's been doing in terms of chat.
Marcel just learned what it meant like 2 minutes ago, and now he's using it again.
Yeah, what Højlund's been doing recently, in terms of producing and scoring goals, he needs to. He seems like a form kind of player, and he'll just keep doing that. So I think I'm really enjoying those three up front, and 3-2, Højlund will score again.
3-2 is I don't want United to be conceding. I would like United to score, but I need us to stop conceding goals. Otherwise, that goal difference is never going down. You know that goal difference that we have of -1, we're going to keep chipping away at it, and then we're going to start conceding. I think Villa, like I said, what made me comfortable about, or what's making me a bit more confident about the Villa game is their performance against Chelsea midweek. And that also was at home. That also was at home. They lost 3-1 at home. Chelsea, who have not been the better team this year, stood on business. They stood on business against Aston Villa. And also what makes me a bit more confident is the way that United have been performing over the last couple games. Like, you know, you got Newport, even that Spurs game just before that big break that we had, but also the Wolves game, etc. It'll be interesting. I said 2-1. I think it'll be 2-1. I think United will concede, unfortunately, and I think it might be one of them ones where we concede from a set piece, we concede from a cutback. Yeah. But what I would like to see is the regular creation of chances, and not just that. I'm talking about playing as a team. I don't want to see Rashford like trying to take on 3 man and shoot. I'd like to see Garnacho on the right. Højlund's doing well. I hope he gets on the score sheet. I hope he just continues to get on the score sheet and just keep growing his confidence, because you can see that relationship as well. I forget all the time. Rasmus Højlund, Garnacho, Kobbie are all around the same age. Yeah, they're all like, Kobbie's the younger one out of all of them, but they are all in their late teens, early 20s. Like they are young when it comes to football level, and they are an integral part of how United are playing, how Ten Hag's playing. And I think inevitably, if United are going to go on to do that kind of top 4 chase throughout the rest of the season, those 3 players will be a very key part of the attack. For me, that's where I stand on that.
Quick question. What is your front 3 and your midfield for next game? Because I think we've spoken about the defense, and I think those pick itself. But what would it be for yourself?
For me, the front 3 will be Garnacho, Højlund, Rashford. Yeah. A lot of people saying free Ahmad. Listen, I've said this. I am a big supporter of Ahmad. I watched him a lot. Like, I did the loan view when he was at Sunderland, so I was covering him a lot. I genuinely don't think he is in Erik Ten Hag's plan. Similar to like Zidane Iqbal was not part of, and people kept saying free Zidane. We ended up selling him. I think Ahmad found himself in an unfortunate position where he got injured in the summer. Yeah. I think United might have sold him. I think United may have sold him in the summer. And Pellistri was going to be that player to kind of get opportunities, because, you know, we sold Elanga, you know, Ten Hag didn't. I feel like Ten Hag is very firm where, you know, if the manager does not see you in his plans. You're not going to play.
Mm.
Alanga, Zidane Iqbal last season, Ahmad this season. Ahmad also, Kobbie Mainoo, let me just like kind of put it like this. Kobbie Mainoo, had he not got injured, would have been part of the team from the beginning of the season if he didn't get injured. We knew he was next up. Yeah?
Mm.
I've never felt like that about Amad Diallo in terms of whether the manager thinks of him like that. Kobbie Mainoo came back from injury, benched Amrabat.
Yeah.
Amrabat, the guy that we spent the last 2 weeks of the transfer window trying to get him on a loan deal. Kobbie came in and Ten Hag put him straight in because Ten Hag rates Kobbie Mainoo.
Yeah.
Ten Hag does not rate Amad Diallo. And I think I think Amad Diallo is a good player. I think he really improved at Sunderland. I think he had a lot of deficiencies going into his loan spell. And I think shout out Tony Mowbray actually got sacked by Sunderland earlier this season, but he worked a lot with Amad Diallo in terms of improving him. And Sunderland fans wanted him to stay. They wanted him to stay. That's how good his loan spell was. And he won, I think it was player of the season for them. He came back to Manchester United, and I genuinely do not see him getting into that first team because also United are in a position now where we are only playing FA Cup and one game a week Premier League. We don't have a situation now where we need to rotate because we are in, quarterfinals, semi-finals, knockout rounds of the European Cup, and we're still in the Carabao Cup and all of that. We don't have a reason to rotate. And Ten Hag has been rotating so much this season that I don't think once his players are available, I don't think he wants to rotate. Because he wants to play with his starting 11. He wants to kind of diminish this idea that there's no philosophy in his football. He has said it time and time again. The way that he wants to play, the important part of it is his players, the players that he needs, the starting 11. So for that reason, I don't see Amad Diallo. I think Amad Diallo will be a player on the bench. I think if we do see him, it might be 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here. When United are winning, I don't think he will ever be brought on as a game changer. I think Anthony will always be ahead of him if Anthony's coming off the bench, because Anthony, not because I think Anthony's better, I think Anthony is shit. I know about 20 men that play in five-a-side that I think is better than Anthony.
Literally.
But I think Anthony is something that the manager wants. His work ethic. There's certain things that Ten Hag sees in Anthony. We don't see it, but it works for Ten Hag. Whereas he looks at Ahmad, and that's not a player that he wants. That's not a player that he's interested in. That's not a player that he wants to play. And I think Ahmad just finds himself in a situation where he got injured, unfortunately, which meant he had to stay. And then January, they already let Palestri leave. They already let Hannibal leave. They're not going to let him leave as well because they need these numbers on the bench. That's where with Ahmad, that's where I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there might be an element of the knee injury there, but I saw him warming up, effortlessly with Anthony right next to him. And I was just thinking to myself, there's no way my manager continuously picks Anthony over Ahmad. So I don't really see why he's moving like this. I think Ahmad should be getting the Anthony minutes right now just to prove himself. So hopefully at some stage that happens. But if both get sold, Sheer Lacey is coming up. Who's a very good. I think there's another player in the academy as well who's very ambidextrous, left foot, right foot. Who's tall as well. I think it's something Williams, a winger as well. So there's good players in the academy, and hopefully we can buy someone like an Elise or something else because the quality on that hand side, if it's not Garnacho, and even Garnacho is kind of inconsistent, it drops massively. I think Ahmad is a special player and a game winner. Like you said, in Championship, he's shown that level. It's exactly what you said on Tony Mowbray as well. But is that midfield free then, it speaks for itself then, yeah?
I think it'll be Kobbie. I think it'll be Kobbie, Cass, Bruno.
Yeah.
I think, you know what, guys? Just the other day, I forgot about Amrabat.
Yeah.
And I'm a person that was singing from the mountains for us to sign Amrabat. I completely forgot about him. I forgot that he's even come back from AFCON. I forgot that he was even on the bench. Unfortunately, I know United ain't going to sign him on a permanent in the summer.
Yeah.
I think he was... What do you think of Amrabat's loan spell at United? Because
I'm upset. I'm really upset because I really believed that, I was naive to believe that he was going to be this massive impact. The break that I want from that naivety is that he came in injured. So there's an element of he comes in injured, same like Højlund came in injured. A lot of the footballers that we purchased to a degree came in injured. So their break-in time and understanding the league, all these kind of things, maybe takes a little bit longer. I think it's a blessing that he's on loan because then we can ship him out quickly and get a better quality footballer in. But I'm really upset that it hasn't worked out for him, because I really felt that single 6-2-8 we would have been able to see it if there was a world-class footballer like Kobbie maybe from the beginning. All the injuries didn't happen. Does he have a use case at some point throughout this season? Yes, I think so, and maybe still useful, and I think he's still a very good footballer. That coming in from the left back position against Crystal Palace was really good. It made a lot of sense. So I think when he's got a lot of time and space, he makes the right decisions and can rotate the ball very well. Helps with the element of control. But Premier League caliber footballer, I think Ten Hag really needs to get that taken off him. Him deciding the footballers that come into the football club. That I think that will benefit our football club long term in terms of getting in the Premier League proven quality. Yes, he can have a say on 2 or 3 footballers that he likes, and the club maybe go for them if they think so. But having the best in class at getting footballers in, quality footballers in, I think he needs to be taken away from that. Develop the academy and focus on coaching the first team.
Nah, I hear it. Before we quickly wrap it up, I lost my train of thoughts. I was about to say something. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up quickly?
Show again next week some point, man. Show again next week.
Yeah, we'll run it back. If this gets, make sure if you're watching this back, be sure to hit the like button. We're not that far off. So we're about 20 away from 100 likes. So be sure to also hit the like button. We'll do this regularly. M&M, double M, whatever you want to call it. I always look forward to hearing what Marcel has to say. Give some funny views, but always backed up with opinions.
Standing on business, man. Standing on business, man. Standing on business.
But that's like the 5th time you've said that in like the last 20 minutes. Big up to Marcel as always. Big up to everyone in the chat. You guys know what it is. Let them know where they can find you on Twitter.
It's literally Marcel 11 or 10 on Twitter. A channel will come. I know you've told me about a channel.
I've been telling you for the longest.
Yeah,
make that channel.
I know. So it's gonna come. It's in the works. But right now, I'm on TikTok as well. I think Moments of Marcel on TikTok as well.
There you go. You lot heard it. Find Marcel here. We'll obviously be doing a weekly show where we'll be chopping it up as always. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out. Big up to everyone that was locked in this afternoon. I'll be back in about 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's going to be a busy Saturday evening. Double watch along, you know what it is. Bayer Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich and Real Madrid versus Girona. A nice little downtime before tomorrow's chaos, because that's Aston Villa versus United tomorrow. We've got a lot of content for that. And then it'll be AFCON, and I'm doing a Super Bowl watch along. Not gonna lie, I'm only doing it because of Usher's performance, and of course, I just want to watch the Super Bowl in it. So big up to everyone. I hope you guys stay locked in. If you want to join the membership club, guys, you can. It's the pinned comment in the chat. You get your badges, you get your emojis, you get your custom member content, and you get to support the growth of this channel as I keep bringing you new content and more content as well. Big up to everyone. Hope you have a wonderful Saturday evening. Let me know in the comments below, guys, your predictions for the game tomorrow. I want to hear what everyone has to say. Either drop it in the comment of the video or drop it in the chat right now. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out. We'll both be on UV tomorrow, so make sure you come there because we'll be standing on business. We'll be standing on business there. Big up to everyone, man. You lot know what it is. Until next time, guys. Marcel, it's your girl Mina. Peace.